just a little note on the role of private capital. One of the things that are most often offered as a motive for PPPs is the ability to tap private capital markets to raise money for badly needed infrastructure investments. But what's important to understand is that if you borrow money on financial markets, right, you got to repay it. And so the real question about whether or not you should tap the private financial markets with a PPP is whether you can do better on your interest rate. And usually, public debt is cheaper than the weighted average cost of capital on a private market. In American toll roads, for example, you can issue a public bond for about 6% interest, whereas the concessionaires want 9% or more in weighted average cost of capital. So if raising money on capital markets is your thing, you're much better off doing it as a public rather than a private. Or another way to put it is that there's a lot easier ways of raising money than writing a concession contract, right? Issuing a bond, a public bond is much easier. The real reason for using expensive private finance is so that the investor has some skin in the game, right? So that they're motivated to find the real efficiency gains. But it's not tapping the private market per se. That's a smart idea. So what are the sources of real efficiency gains? The first two are ones you hear often. Focused accountability. That's a nice way of saying that the managers care only about what the investors are getting for a return, or primarily, and don't have wider responsibilities, right? So that it's easy for them to fire excess labor, raise prices, and do things that might improve productivity, make hard decisions, because they're not responsible to a wider audience, unlike public managers. The second one is this allocation of risk to the party that can bear. The people who do finance stress that a lot in the design of PPPs, right? If you do allocate the risk to the party that controls them, they'll have an incentive to reduce those risks. But this is the one that's related to the make or buy decision that I want to illustrate a little bit more. And that is the subject of my current work, which is why you have to listen to this, because I'm interested in it. But it's the bundling or integration of activities that are normally procured separately. And you can think of it as the scope of the PPP. You know, how broad a PPP are you going to have?